Just before graduating middle school, Hyundai-sun was living an ordinary day, until a sudden trip sent his soul spiraling out of his body. Before he could even grasp what was happening, he found himself sinking into the depths of hell. There, chaos reigned. Ferocious monsters clashed in savage battles, and the defeated were mercilessly devoured. But amid all the horrors, what truly unsettled him was the demon lord, who had dragged him into this nightmare. Of all the things Hyundai could have worried about, it was the demon lord's disturbing ignorance of the concept of consent that haunted him most. Daesung somehow stays in hiding and lives without eating for 10 days straight. The strange thing about this place was the absence of any day or night cycle. When our hero finally reached his breaking point, his only option for survival was to consume the rotten, uncooked meat left behind by the monsters. Disgusting as it was his only way to stay alive. Over time, he gradually adapted to his harsh environment. He began to strike back at the monsters that saw him as prey, using mere pebbles from the ground, somehow managing to drive them away. With no other option, he was forced to fight, relying on anything he could find and turning it into a makeshift weapon. Tears fell from his eyes as he missed his mother, and in that moment of grief, he vowed not to succumb to despair. As the days blurred together, a moment came when he decided to bid farewell to his humanity. He started from the bottom, clawing his way up. The meat that once disgusted him now became a rare luxury, something he learned to appreciate for survival. One day, as he was eating, a panel unexpectedly appeared before him. It revealed that he had risen to level 3. At that moment, it all felt like a game. As 7 years flew by, he reached level 24. With this level of strength, he could easily one-shot the creatures that had once seemed like ferocious monsters. After enduring 24 years, he successfully crafted a sword from a stone collected from a dragon knight. However, time did not stand still. It flowed like a gentle breeze. In his 51st year, Daesung accomplished the formidable feat of slaying an elder dragon. By his 79th year, he finally found his way to the demon lord, the very creature that had dragged him into this hellish existence, and most importantly without consent. He effortlessly slashes through the bugs guarding the demon lord's lair, and even the gatekeeper stands no chance against the aged yet surprisingly youthful protagonist. He threatens the guard, demanding that he politely open the gate, or else his remains will be fed to the monsters of this so-called hell. However, the guard is far from cooperative and puts up a bit of a struggle. Taking the situation as a personal affront to the demon lord's honor, he goes on a rampage. As he trash talks, he suddenly feels something pierce through him, and when he looks down, he discovers a massive hole in his chest. Daesung, unfazed, merely remarks that this noisy guard is irritating him. Meanwhile, the floating skeleton Fireball, likely his pet, asks if he isn't worried that the demon lord will retaliate for killing his guard, and whether he really intends to take over hell. However, he dismisses the Fireball's concerns, stating that he has no interest in something like becoming a stupid ruler. He explains that 80 years have passed since he was dragged into this place, and every monster he has faced has been remarkable, each with fascinating stories and reasons for their presence in hell. This is why he wants to confront the demon lord and ask why he brought him here. The Fireball finds his method of inquiry rather foolish and suggests there might have been a more polite way to approach the situation. It proposes that he should fall to his knees and beg for forgiveness. Yet he remains resolute, insisting that he will resort to violence in response to the suffering he endured, especially since he was brought here without any notion of consent. With that, he grasps his sword and charges toward the demon lord, only to suddenly find himself in a hospital. He panics, wondering if this is all a dream, especially since he hasn't dreamt of Earth in ages. Nearby, he sees children playing, and he realizes that, by his own physique, he appears quite weak. Unable to move his body, he convinces himself that this must be a lucid dream. Just then, his mother opens the door. Trembling at the sight of her son, awakened after 30 long years, she bursts into tears and hugs him tightly. But Daesung feels a wave of disdain for this dream, finding it incredibly childish. To his surprise, it turns out that he actually did slay the demon lord, and became the absolute ruler of this hell. When his Fireball companion asks what he plans to do next, a sudden message appears, inquiring if he wishes to return to Earth. For all those 80 years, all he had wanted was to escape this very place. Without wasting a moment, he quickly accepts the offer, and suddenly he finds himself in the hospital. Having awakened from a comatose state after 30 long years, the doctor checks his eye reflexes and offers positive gestures to his mother, reassuring her that rehabilitation treatment will get her son back in shape in no time. For his mother, this is a blessing, but for Daesung, it feels like a curse. The thought of returning to life after wasting 30 years in bed, now in such a frail state, is utterly unacceptable to him. He becomes increasingly agitated, wondering if his entire journey to hell has been nothing more than a dream. The people nearby grow scared of him as he starts to act like a psychotic patient. Overwhelmed by his frustration and confusion, he threatens the doctor not to come near him, but when the doctor advances, our hero bites him like a wild beast. Demanding to know what has happened to his body, he questions if he has been paralyzed or poisoned, desperately hoping this is just a nightmare. In his madness, he tumbles off the bed, which only deepens his mother's worry. He reflects on the 80 years of continuous struggle he endured in hell, feeling as if all of it had been wasted. Even in his darkest moments there, he had never lost hope of escaping. And now he yearns to return. Staff members are summoned immediately, grasping both of Daesung's arms to force him back onto the bed. As he peeks through the window, he sees a massive wormhole opening up in the sky. Confused and desperate, he questions his fate, wondering if his life in hell had merely been a dream he experienced while in a coma. When he refuses to calm down, the anesthesiologist uses an injection to put him to sleep. Then, as his senses return, he finds himself watching a news channel on the TV, which confirms his suspicions. The sight he had seen was indeed a gate, and a hunting team has been dispatched to clean up the monsters. The leader of the team sends reports to a man who has come to see him. The man appears shocked and overjoyed to find him awake. Still feeling confused, Daesung asks who he is, only to realize, in a flash of recognition, that this is his friend Chanho. Chanho informs him that he has been in this state for 10 years. He explains that a decade ago, while on his way home, he suddenly fell unconscious and collapsed, and since that moment, he has been lying in this hospital bed. Upon hearing 10 years, Daesung feels a mix of confusion and relief. He had thought 30 years had passed. What irritates him most, however, is the realization that he spent 80 years in hell. Chanho shares that his mother has endured a great deal, working 3 jobs to cover his hospital expenses. He encourages him to take charge of his life again, revealing that he has a job opportunity lined up for him as well. As our demon king is wheeled outside by his mother, seeking some fresh air, he feels a heavy sense of responsibility and a deep hatred for his body, which cannot even move on its own. Suddenly, 2 men appear, demanding the money his mother borrowed. She apologizes and pleads for just 1 more month, but the thugs remain unmoved. In a moment of aggression, one of the thugs slams her, threatening her with violence. Tears stream down her face as she begs them to stop humiliating her in front of her son, her voice trembling with desperation. However, the thug pays no attention to her pleas. He rolls up his sleeves and starts beating the poor woman. Witnessing his mother's suffering ignites a fierce rage within Daesung, so he starts calling them bugs and hurling insults at them. When one of the gangsters grabs him by the sleeve, his mother desperately urges him to apologize, begging the thugs to let her son go by reminding them that he is just a child. Daesung refuses to give in, adopting a hardened expression. The thug, smirking, throws him down to the ground with a forceful shove. After that, the gangster delivers a brutal beating. As he struggles to control his anger and yearns for his old body, a sudden arrival quest pops up before him in the status window. Without a moment's hesitation, he hastily accepts it, recognizing that he has little choice in the matter. The status window had been his lifeline, allowing him to endure his time in hell on his own. As soon as he acknowledges the quest, everything around him halts as if time itself has come to a standstill. The conditions of the quest unfold within the status window. He is instructed to reach a specified point within an hour, with the promise of receiving an elixir of recovery upon success. Driven by determination, he contemplates whether regaining his former strength is possible, and spots a red marker just 10 meters away. He attempts to stand but, with a grin spreading across his face, begins crawling towards the target. The thought of complaining about something so trivial disgusts him. After all, he is the one who has already conquered hell. Crawling slower than an insect, the centimeters stretch into meters, and the meters feel like endless kilometers. At this pace, he starts doubting his ability to reach the location in time. Yet, he strives to stay composed, knowing that, in his experience, the system never assigns impossible tasks or quests. As the seconds slip by, he suddenly notices a loophole. Recalling the quest's terms, it dawns on him that the only requirement is to reach the destination, regardless of how he manages to do so. Our crawling hero grows irritated, realizing how obvious the solution had been all along. With his frail hands, he reaches for his wheelchair, moving slowly but steadily until he manages to settle into it. However, only 35 seconds remain. Undeterred, he grips the wheelchair and propels himself forward. Refusing to lose hope, he pushes onward and, against all odds, reaches the location in the final second. With the quest completed, he seizes the reward and quickly consumes it. Almost instantly, a wave of relief washes over him. His pain fades, and though only a small fraction, he begins to regain a slight bit of his former physical strength. With the completion of the quest, the time stop effect dissolves. The thugs glance around in confusion, searching for Daesung, who has seemingly vanished into thin air. Before they can begin their search, however, the police arrive, apparently having witnessed the entire incident. With no other choice, the thugs flee the scene in a hurry. Later that night, while lying in a hospital bed, the Demon Lord repeatedly attempts to summon the status window, but all efforts prove futile. He has no idea how it opened earlier. Desperate, he tries different commands like quest and missions, but in the end, he abandons the attempt. His mind fixates on the need for new quests, hoping they will help him regain his strength before the thugs reappear. Suddenly, a strange noise breaks the silence, and he finds himself floating in a place known as the Pantheon. Initially, he dismisses it as a nonsensical dream, but it quickly becomes apparent that this is no illusion. He has been summoned here to fulfill some kind of task. Without hesitation, he requests another quest, and a punching bag, though more accurately, a punching monster, materializes before him. He does as instructed, and upon completing the task he is rewarded with a memory chip. No sooner is the quest finished than another appears, this time requiring him to run 10 kilometers. The quests continue to roll in one after the other, and with each completed task, he earns yet another reward. For 10 days straight, he pushes through, completing quest after quest, yet only manages to accomplish 55% of the overall implementation. Frustration builds as he tires of these low-level tasks, and he finally demands a proper challenge. In response, the system grants him a new quest, to kill a crying demon. Suddenly, a bolt of thunder strikes before him, and the crying demon materializes. The so-called Demon King recalls how close he came to death when facing this opponent in the past, and feels a rush of excitement at the chance for a rematch. The thunder-covered monster lets out a deafening growl and launches into the duel with a ferocious claw attack. Daisung barely dodges in time. Fully aware that a single strike would reduce him to smithereens, he leaps forward, aiming to strike, but the monster effortlessly swats him away, sending him crashing to the ground. Blood spills from his mouth as he struggles to stand. The humiliation of being tossed around by a crying demon gnawing at his pride. The battle drags on, with Daisung, a demon lord who should be feared as a villain, forced into a frustrating game of dodging. But eventually, his luck runs out, and the demon catches him, gripping him tightly in its claws. In that desperate moment, Daisung recalls how he crushed the monster in their first encounter. He had nearly forgotten that he could summon a sword. Without hesitation, he calls one to his hand and slices through the demon's left claw in a swift, decisive motion. Without hesitation, Daisung shows no mercy, swiftly sending the demon back to where it came from, as though it were nothing more than an insect. With the quest completed, he finds himself back in the hospital room. Morning has already arrived. He opens the window, the sound of which stirs his mother awake. Dazed, she asks who is standing beside her, only to be shocked when she sees Daesung in front of her, his physique now resembling that of a bodybuilder. The hospital staff, responsible for his rehabilitation, are left speechless. According to their expectations, his recovery should have taken at least 6 months. It's beyond comprehension for them how Daesung achieved such remarkable progress in just 15 days. His mother, still worried about her son, expresses her concern, but the doctor gently reassures her, calming her nerves by stating there is nothing to fear. Meanwhile, Daesung feels the effects of his quest. Noticing a significant improvement as some of his strength returns, he stretches, glancing around the room until he spots his mother speaking to a nurse. Tears fill her eyes as she thanks the nurse, who in turn offers her comfort, acknowledging her struggle and empathizing with her situation. Seeing this, Daesung realizes just how difficult the past 10 years must have been for his mother. His heart tightens with emotion, and as he clenches his fists, he silently vows to protect her. Now that he has finally returned, he heads to the washroom and shouts, "Pantheon!" Instantly, his soul is drawn into the Pantheon. Upon arrival, he asks whether the system can accelerate the implementation process. The system responds affirmatively, allowing him to select the difficulty level for the random quests. Recalling his status as the Demon Lord, he boldly sets the difficulty level to Hell, the highest and most challenging tier available. In response, a dark orb materializes before him. As it shatters, the sight that emerges leaves him wide-eyed in astonishment. Before him stands none other than the absolute ruler of Hell, an exact mirror image of Daesung, but in his full strength. Daesung summons his sword, excitement coursing through him at the prospect of battle. Without wasting a moment, his replica lunges forward, launching a fierce overhead attack. The weakened Daesung barely manages to block the blow, feeling the strain. The replica maintains the offensive, striking from every angle, searching for a weakness in Daesung's defenses. Overwhelmed by the sheer power of his doppelganger, he realizes that the longer this fight drags on, the more it works against him. Suddenly, the replica finds an opening and thrusts his hand toward Daesung, sending him flying across the arena. Breathing heavily, Daesung mutters that the replica feels more like a genuine article at this point. Yet, with a smirk forming on his lips, he seems to have a trick up his sleeve, ready to turn the tide. He activates his skill, blood neutralization, rendering himself immune to his double's attacks. Even when slashed by the sword, he feels nothing and swiftly shifts the momentum of the battle, slamming the replica's face into the ground. However, this advantage is short-lived. To his astonishment, the replica is not so easily bested. It too possesses the same skill. The battle resumes with renewed intensity, and soon Daesung finds himself stabbed by the sword, the pain a stark reminder of the stakes. Meanwhile, a cleaning lady approaches the washroom, ready to open the door after receiving no response from inside. Just as she reaches for the handle, she is abruptly summoned to the third floor on an urgent basis. Back in the Pantheon, Daesung feels cornered. The weight of potential defeat presses down on him, and he realizes that if he loses now, all his hard work will have been in vain. Desperation fuels his thoughts as he searches for a way to turn the tide. Even if it requires a stroke of luck, he quickly accesses his inventory and pulls out a nutritional tonic, one of the awards he received for completing quests. This potion has the remarkable ability to restore 20% of his stamina. Realizing that 5 bottles would fully replenish him to 100%, he feels a flicker of hope ignites within him. In the heat of battle, he decides to take the risk and chugs down 1 bottle. Feeling the rejuvenating effects surge through his body, interrupted by his fake double, our hero doesn't hesitate and fearlessly launches his fist, disregarding his low health. With his double sent flying by a single punch, our hero's confidence is quickly restored. Without wasting a moment, he pulls out 2 more tonics and chugs both bottles. His double, however, doesn't take kindly to this and nearly catches him with a vicious roundhouse kick. Skillfully evading the attack, he downs a 3rd tonic. They are given no chance to pause as they exchange blows at a speed too fast for the eye to follow. Meanwhile, our protagonist has managed to finish a 4th tonic. Yet, to his frustration, even after recovering significantly, he still can't seem to defeat his doppelganger, who wastes no time in trapping him in a chokehold. A nasty smile spreads across its face as its blade hurtles toward our Demon King. As a last resort, our guy executes a 200 IQ plan to completely turn the tables. His double's shredded abs are pierced by the original's blade, leaving it baffled as its own weapon disappears into Daesung's inventory. With a cheeky smile, our protagonist laughs at his previously overconfident doppelganger. Watching it collapse to its knees, he savors the last-second victory his gamble secured. Upon completing the Hell difficulty quest, a blazing blue window proclaims that the user has achieved a 100% implementation rate, and that his body is now restored to its peak. As a bonus, he even gains the ability to use the Hell system on Earth. Suddenly, his hospital clothes are torn apart. The sight of his battle-scarred body triggers a flood of memories, reminding our Demon King of all the suffering that brought him to this point, giving him a sense of déjà vu. Nevertheless, when he orders the system to return him to Earth, a panel appears, asking if he wants to read unread messages. Upon selecting yes, the messages congratulate him on becoming a monarch. It's explained that after the monarch left, the heavenly beings took control of Hell, leaving the demons trapped. Realizing the implications, our protagonist scoffs at the very Hell that stole 80 years of his life, now asking for his help. With a cheeky grin, the monarch of Hell defiantly flips off his subjects, cursing at them in vengeful satisfaction. He orders the system to exit him from the Pantheon, leaving the hordes of monsters in Hell stunned as they realize their fate is sealed. Back in the hospital, my guy is casually performing insane one-handed vertical push-ups, while his mother and the doctor watch in silent awe. Using his Sherlock Holmes-level deduction skills, the doctor concludes that Daesung has seemingly awakened, but his mother still struggles to believe her son's unbelievable transformation. Despite the doctor's reassurance, she somberly expresses her desire to understand how this could have happened. Eventually, the doctor suggests she visit the Awakener Association, which her son overhears. The scene shifts to our protagonist and his mother in a taxi. As he reflects on her conversation with the doctor, he wonders what his mom might be hiding from him. Adding to his confusion, he gazes out the window, wondering what happened on Earth while he was comatose. When they finally return home, his mom mentions she'll be back soon and leaves. Entering the house, he is surprised to find a girl with cotton candy hair taking money out of a drawer. He racks his brain, trying to recall who this mysterious girl could be. Just then, his mother rushes in, breaking the awkward silence. She reveals the girl is Han Jisoo, his sister. The realization dawns on him that the girl he couldn't recognize this whole time is his own sibling. Noticing her bratty daughter taking money again, their mom is visibly annoyed as Jisoo ignores her and gets ready to leave. Meanwhile, our big brother is still reeling from the shock of not recognizing his only sibling. As she brushes past him, his sister bitterly reminds him of how the last 10 years have been hell for their mother and her. Daesung looks down somberly, regretful that he couldn't do anything to help. As she heads out, their mom asks her to at least say where she's going. Then, a loud voice catches everyone's attention. Once again, the debt collectors have returned. They threaten to break in if the door isn't opened on the count of 3. Everyone goes silent, but our boy is furious, ready to dish out some revenge. Growing tired of waiting outside, the man in the silver suit kicks their door. Mom pleads with her daughter to come back inside, but she remains fearless. The silver suit turns to the thug accompanying him, wondering if they should just break down the door. To their surprise, Jisoo steps out and complains that they're being too damn annoying. Momentarily speechless, the silver suit concludes she must be the daughter. Seizing the opportunity, he angrily rushes into the house, while his ugly, lecherous partner leers at Jisoo. Their mother, trembling, profusely apologizes as she takes cash out of her purse. But a moment later, the money is in the air as the silver suit, furious at the measly sum, viciously slaps her, knocking the frail woman to the ground. Witnessing his mother being mistreated, our hero, seething with rage, launches the silver suit flying with a single satisfying punch. The fat and ugly thug asks what's happening while the once arrogant man in the silver suit cries to his daddy about being bullied. The thug can only stare in shock as our demon lord thanks them both for conveniently coming straight to him. After a brief taunt, the thug is seized by the jaw as our guy prepares to deliver a much-deserved beatdown on behalf of his mother. He smacks the thug in the face, not 5, not 10, but 100 times before the brute collapses to the ground in pain. Beaten and bloodied, the thug spots a wooden chair. In a desperate move, he grabs it by the leg and tries to smash our boy. But like a total badass, my guy punches right through the chair, sending the thug flying into the wall and landing next to his partner. Panicking, the man in the silver suit pulls out a dagger and mocks our boy. Unfazed, our protagonist calmly grabs the guy by the wrist and twists it savagely, like Play-Doh, in vengeance for striking his mother. The man cries out in agony, clutching his now useless floppy hand. The ugly fat thug warns him he won't get away unscathed. Instead, more savage than the two rascals combined, our Demon King presents a simple solution. Leave no witnesses. Just as he's about to finish off the thug, he freezes at the sound of his mother's scream. She begs her son to stop, and the two debt collectors, now in tears, scramble out of the house. They stumble back to their car, discussing in disbelief how a hospitalized kid could get so strong after spending 10 years comatose. Worried about the consequences of failing their job, the silver suit anxiously asks his partner what they should do. Nursing his wounds, the ugly big guy tries to change the subject, but the silver suit quickly interrupts, having just spotted Daesung's sister. Back at home, Mom explains that after he collapsed, she had to sell the house and the store. She goes on to say that once those savings ran out, she took loans from 3 different institutions. Unlike the original amount borrowed, the interest compounded into an unpayable, sky-high debt. Curious about Jisoo, our protagonist learns that she had to drop out of school and work at a restaurant to help pay off the debt. With teary eyes, his mother reveals how his sister worked tirelessly day and night just to support him. Gritting his teeth, he laments that she shouldn't have had to leave school. His mom then explains that, despite Jisoo's efforts, she wasn't earning enough and has been going somewhere unknown for the past few months. Heartbroken at his family's suffering, our guy wishes they had left him to die, but his mother gently reassures him. The somber silence that follows is interrupted by a phone call. Seeing that it's the debt collector, our boy tells her to hand it over. Frustrated, he mocks them, but his pupils widen in shock as he hears the bad news. The scene shifts to his sister, bound and duct-taped. The ugly thug shoves her head as he's on a call with our protagonist, threatening him to collect 100 million in 24 hours if he wants his sister to be okay. Furious, our boy grips the phone tightly. When Mom asks what's wrong, he simply tells her he'll be back after a while. His mother warns him against hurting or killing anyone, insisting his life will be over if he does. But the monarch knows that killing them won't solve anything, unlike in hell. To his surprise, just as he mentions the word hell, a fiery panel appears, reassuring his mom that he won't commit any crimes. Our protagonist accepts the offer to obtain a basic skill. Presented with 4 options, he contemplates which choice would be best, but ultimately concludes that none of them is noteworthy. Meanwhile, the gangsters continue moving Daesung's sobbing sister. As they ride up in an elevator, the ugly thug reminds her of her role as a hostage. Suddenly, sparks fly and the lights go out, bringing the elevator to a halt. Noticing sparks near his feet, the fat guy is taken aback as our protagonist magically flashes into existence. He sarcastically comments that he's come to deliver the money. It turns out our hero picked the Shadow Wraith skill, allowing him to summon a wraith that takes on his form once it has the target's blood. Now that it has located its target, the wraith bashes the silver suit's head into the metallic wall. Meanwhile, the ugly guy panics, realizing Daesung has been a hidden awakener all along. shocking his sister in the process. Yet the wraith feigns ignorance. When the elevator doors finally open, the fat guy stumbles out, announcing to the gang members that an awakener has broken in. But before he can say more, a swift strike to his nape sends him crashing to the ground with a loud thud. Insulted on their own turf, the gangsters grab their weapons. The wraith menacingly welcomes them, and the first guy steps up to attack. However, he quickly finds himself teleported behind him, receiving a kick that knocks him unconscious. Thus, Electric Daesung wreaks havoc on the mob. Now the last man standing, he approaches Jisoo and checks if she's alright. He quickly removes her restraints and tape and urges her to go home. But she reveals her concern for her dear brother. With a cool aura, he assures her that he will come to see her after finishing his business. So, as the elevator door closes on her, the wraith prepares for another beatdown. Grunts of pain echo throughout the halls, where only unconscious bodies are visible. It appears that our hero climbs the stairs, clearing each floor one by one. As he nears another group of gangsters enjoying a smoke, he jokes that everyone is so weak that the lack of challenge frustrates him. Irritated by the insult, like all the previous gangsters, they get absolutely demolished. One of them calls their boss, a man covered in tattoos that span his gigantic muscles. He answers the phone, berating his subordinate and reminding him never to call when he's relaxing in the sauna. However, the panicked gangsters insist that he come quickly. Being ordered to come infuriates the boss even more. But as he hears his underling getting knocked out, he realizes something is wrong. Rising from his seat, he clenches his giant fist in frustration, crushing his phone. Talk about a waste. Meanwhile, back at the gang's headquarters, numerous bloody bodies lie on the ground. The Shadow Wraith approaches another member, who begs not to suffer the same fate. However, a wall suddenly explodes open. Caught off guard, Electric Daesung turns to see a giant man grasp his face, immediately smashing his head into the ground. The boss expresses his rage about Daesung's mess. Meanwhile, our hero reflects on how his mother and sister aren't even surprised by his powers, realizing that others like him also exist. His Shadow Wraith powers allow him to retreat safely. The boss is shocked to see the guy dusting himself off in front of him, causing all the chaos alone. The Shadow Wraith questions whether the boss is also an awakener. The boss proudly grins, promising to send our boy to hell. Hearing the all-too-familiar word, our hero narrows his eyes at the muscular monster, whose clothes burst from his physical enhancement, not caring about his size. As always, our hero bashes the boss's face and taunts the giant weakling. Lying caved into a wall, the boss denies being defeated so easily and angrily gets up to launch a counterattack. But he is promptly humbled by a kick to his chiseled face. With a flurry of kicks, our guy gives the boss a beatdown, explaining what true hell is and how much misery it causes. Meanwhile, the giant man can only think of surviving and asks for a timeout. With his soul shattered, the muscular gangster offers money and everything he has in exchange for his worthless life. Hearing about the money piques my guy's interest. He questions the boss about the gang's safety. After pointing our protagonist toward the closet with the safe, the boss flees like a crying little girl, finally reaching his white car in the parking lot. Thinking he is safe, the boss rambles about how he will make sure to hunt our boy down, but his nemesis creeps up, whispering that he forgot to ask for the safe's password. Even as the boss goes crazy from fear, the Shadow Wraith torments him one last time, saying he can be reached anytime, anywhere. Later, money magically falls out of a portal in front of our protagonist, totaling over 500 million. Our hero grins like a greedy goblin at all the things and apartments he can buy with it. He walks into a mall and becomes captivated by a newly launched folding phone, which the shopkeeper mentions is priced at 2.99 million won. His curiosity piqued, and he checked out another model, one that resembles the Samsung Z Flip. The shopkeeper, hoping to ease the purchase, suggests an installment plan, but Daesung, without hesitation, slaps 5 million won on the counter and buys both models outright. The shopkeeper, with an air of suspicion, accepts the money as though he has either swindled someone or charged more than the fair price. Our devil arrives home, casually dropping off his shopping. When his mother calls him to join her for a meal, he replies that he needs to head out. Before she can inquire where he is going, he has already disappeared.